Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Bicep community call of June 2024. There's some pretty exciting presentations and updates, so I'm looking forward to sharing that with you all. I'll just breeze right through these with a quick summary. Community call is for you guys. We want to be able to talk to you directly, so please utilize the chat and the Q&A at the end. You'll be able to get off mute and share any thoughts or questions that you may have. Okay, so for our ODOT 29 release, we have some pretty exciting features we're including. That should be released next week, probably by the end of next week, unfortunately, but we want to make sure that we get everything in. So first off are our modular parameters in Bicep param files. This is using the extends keyword. This is something that someone had asked for an update for. First, we will talk about this a little bit more in a presentation in a couple minutes by Engin. But he's been working on this for a while now. We've been asking for feedback for a few months, and there's been a lot of work done, and we will finally have it out. So we're super excited about that. He'll give a little bit more information and still looking for a little bit of feedback on some final use cases. But hopefully you can give us some information on what you think, give us a little bit more information on prioritization on some specific use cases. So stay tuned. Next, we've been working on extensibility, which is currently only Kubernetes and MS Graph extensibility, but we've deprecated the term provider to extension. Our reasoning for this is because the term provider is most commonly associated with Azure resource providers in context of ARM. So having Bicep extensibility providers may accidentally cause some confusion using the providers keyword. So instead, we want to use the term extension in the Bicep files instead and have updated our docs to account for this. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can click on the link and look at the issue. Shanglong has given some extra information onto what exactly we're doing here and why. But it will not be a breaking change right now. It will emit warnings if you still use the provider keyword instead of extension for a few months before we fully deprecate it. So you'll get used to seeing that warning and having to change the word before we fully create it into a breaking change. Another thing, one of our users noticed that we don't accurately decompile negative and float numbers in template language expressions. So now we have support for this. Not exactly sure how many people are using negative or float numbers, but it's supported now for those who want to use those in template language expressions. Yeah, that's pretty much it for ODOT 29. For our future releases, we have some small updates here. Something Anthony has been working on is support for local deployments in Bicep files. We've been wanting to add this for support for some other features that we've been working on, but hopefully maybe some people can really benefit from having the local deploy features. Currently, there's a flag for it in the experimental features tab, but it's not fully supported. So keep that in mind. He will present on the usage of and like further explain the specific feature at the next community call. If you do want to search for a little bit more information, you could search up local deploy in the Bicep repo, and I think he has a really quick recorded demo for support for that in the VS Code deploy pane. Export as Bicep in Portal. This we've been working on this, and we're super happy that this should be out by July. I put it in the ODOT 31 release. So hopefully like everything will be checked in by the beginning of August, but it may be out by the first or second week of July. So super excited about that. Let us know what you think. We're excited to get this out to you guys. To be determined, these things have kind of been put on hold for a little bit. Bicep deploy, I know someone was asking about that in the issue. We'll give a little bit more information on that at the requested updates at the end. Dynamic type updates, other extensibility features hasn't been fully prioritized because we've been wanting to prioritize other features, and security wave came through, so we wanted to focus on that as well. Yeah, that being said, that's it for the release and future releases. So let's move on to Engine.
Thank you. So let me share my screen. And uh, yes, perfect. I hope you can all see my screen now. And okay, here we go. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm based in Redmond, Washington State, United States, and it's all gray and a little bit rainy today, and it's almost July. I hope you have a better weather wherever you are. So my name is Engin. My session will be fairly simple and quick. I just want to let you know that modular parameters feature is super close to be finished. We renamed the feature as extendable param files yesterday, and I collected many feedbacks to my PR for this feature, and I addressed almost all of them already. So in the next week or so, we are going to release the new version of Bicep, and please expect this feature in that release. So it's behind the feature flag. So in order to be able to use it, you have to set the feature flag. It's like in your Bicep config file, just you have to set to for the extendable param files feature, and it will be available for your like Bicep modules and your deployment. As a very quick reminder, extendable param files feature let us put most common parameters in a file to have a single source of truth for those parameters. And let us extend our parameter files, like the module parameter files, from this like common parameter Bicep param files. Uh, and we can have like one single source of truth for this common parameter files. And you can name your, common parameter files as you like. It could be base, it could be shared, it could be common, it could be global. You can name it however you like. Let's imagine we have many Bicep modules, and we have Bicep param files for those modules. We tweak the values for parameters in the Bicep param file based on the environment we deploy to, right? So this is our scenario. Most probably we have some parameters duplicated in those Bicep param files, and it hurts the reusability aspect and also single source of truth aspect as well. Like, what if I forgot to change the location in one of the Bicep param files, for example? So if I can, put the location parameter in one file and extend all my parameter files from just like one file, then I can come and change this location parameter in this one file, and all the parameter files that uses or extend from this file will be use the new value. And if I want to overwrite this location parameter in some like specific param files, I can do that. So this feature allows overriding, right? But in the first release, we are planning to have some limitations and relax some of them when we see signals from the community and our customers. For example, in the first release, we are going to no support variables, for example, in the base Bicep param files, right, or the common Bicep param files. Main reason is you cannot overwrite variable values in Bicep. So it could be confusing if you declare a variable in the base Bicep param file and redeclare it in the main Bicep param. So because the deployment will fail during the compilation process for the Bicep param files. So we shouldn't spill over the variable declarations from base bicep param to main bicep param in this case, right? So that's why we are not going to allow variable like variables in the bicep param files, and the same reason we don't allow user-defined functions, user-defined data types, things like that. Actually, we only support parameters and their values in the main, so in the base bicep param files. Wherever you have using none, it's one of the common um, place for the common parameters. So we don't allow, variables, user-defined functions, user-defined data types, and things like that. So um, we only support parameters. So I'd like to get your feedback on this. It's very close to be released, but again, I'd like to get your view. Is there a case for us to reconsider to relax, for example, variable support in the first release? Or do you think it's good enough for the first release and we can, relax some of these limitations in the upcoming releases as well? So, yeah, I'd like to, get your view and get your feedback on these limitations. And I see one hand is raised, Mikhail. Yes, please.
Hey, I have a question. What do you mean you don't support variable?
That means
I imagine the parameters can be overridden. So you have base, so you only use define parameters, but I can use it, and I can use the vars to define the base parameters that can be overridden in the main bicep param, right? Or
yeah. So that means let's imagine we have this main, base dot bicep param file, right? So in this base bicep param, we could have a location parameter set to West US, right? Ah, forgot how to write. Okay. And in our main bicep param, we could have storage name equals to, like something. And also we could have, I don't know, storage key, for example, set to another thing, right? So in the main bicep param, if we want, or in one of the main bicep params for, one of the modules, we can overwrite the location as East US. But what we are not going to allow is to have variable usage in the base bicep param. We can still use variables in our main bicep param, which extends from the base bicep
okay,
param.
yeah, but if I do in the base bicep, I do var locations, and then in the param location I do locations index 0. Then it will be okay, right? Or you don't allow it at all. I understand that I cannot access the variable from the base, but I could still use it, right?
If you mean something like this, like have a variable in the base bicep param and be able to use it, it's not allowed for now. So because everything in the base bicep param, everything in the base bicep param is going to be available in the place that we extended to. So if we have this variable declaration here, that means it will be available in here as well in the deployment. And you could have another variable declaration called locations in here, and that means you're overriding it. So that's the main reason we don't allow variable declarations in the first place. At least we are thinking to not allow it.
Okay, so
Just to be
in my
clear,
opinion,
Nikolai,
Yep.
line 3 is not allowed in the initial release of extendable parameters. That's right, Engin?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not allowed, but it would be good to allow it. So it can be joined, right? So like currently we have you can you first process the bicep param, then you can override all the params from the main bicep, and you have you can stack lots of things, and you can override depending on the region, on the environment, and so on.
Engin,
Well,
Stephanie, do you have
for the initial is okay, but I would love to not create a dedicated bicep params just for the VBAs without all the features of the bicep param.
Engin, do you have
Yeah.
or Stephanie, do you have a place where you would want to collect feedback if people want to share code samples or anything like that of what they expect to be able to do here?
I could have one quick question. What do you think about this scenario? Let's imagine we have this skew variable in the base bicep param. Should we spill over it to the main bicep param since we are extending it from what if we have a variable with the same name in here? But what do you think about this array? I mean, if it's an array, we could merge those arrays. But what if it's a primitive type variable?
Yeah, but I don't expect that the variables from the base bicep param will be available in the main bicep param. I don't expect that at all. I would just love to be able to use it. I don't want to have them in the base. I just want to use them in the base to produce the default params that I can optionally override in the next or the subsequent bicep param.
Mm-hmm. And then I have maybe one more follow-up question. So how many parameters are common in your deployment? How many parameters do you think you will have in your base bicep param? And do you think variables will make it more easy to maintain to those parameters?
For example, I can have a lot of parameters, and then I can local bicep param to deploy the infrastructure on my local setting. That I will just override some usernames or for some testing, just to so all the lots of them can be in the base, and the last one would be just for deploying some temporary infrastructure just to check out if all the infrastructure works. So it can be a lot of them, and it can be a very complex one, the base. So yeah, so in this scenario, base and the environment, it can be only location, name of the project, and so on. But then I can have the proper one, and then I can have like a local or a test or a run, so that can just override few of them, keeping all two before in sync.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, and I see Anton is also have his hand raised. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi. So I wanted to give one of the examples where having the variables would be nice. So with regards to the location parameter, We use the location then to create a short, let's say, symbolized one to use in the naming. So, for example, if it's West Europe, we would create a view out of it, and that happens in every file, right? So having a variable that we can use, and then in the variable there would be a function, and that basically has a map, and then it maps, shorter version to the longer version. But it happens basically with every Bicep. It would be nice to just kind of deduplicate and move it out into the base. And I was thinking, could it make sense to maybe have like a local variables and global variables where you can put a decorator on it, and then for those that you really need to export or to make it included, the same way as it happens with the exports where you use the export decorator. Yeah. So that's point number 2. And point number 3, you ask how many standard parameters would there be. We, for example, have at around 15 that are the same across all the Bicep files, because that kind of defines the standard interface for a pipeline to call.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Yeah, good numbers. Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
And Pinaki, I see your also hand raised.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. A quick comment on this, actually. The way I see it, team, is that not everybody might have a base.bicep param. They might just say main.bicep param. I'm going to start with it. And in that case, they might do param location storage name. The fact that on line number 8, I did extends, this is almost like inheritance that we do in C++ and C#. So extend in this case is actually inheritance. So my opinion is, if I do extend bicep.param, it automatically says that I'm actually overriding any param like SKU or location or something. So I think that the variable name SKU should be the same in base or in main.bicep. If I say extend and then var SKU something, it implicitly mentioned that I'm overriding that value, because the word extend something actually does it for me. That helps us with the feature that main.bicep param can be used with or without the base. That's my 2 Bitcoin opinion, because 2 cents doesn't do anything.
Thank you.
I had a quick question for Mikolai. I was wondering what your what your main point was. Was it that you wouldn't want modular or extendable parameters to be released without variable support, or you don't like the state in design that variables would be used in params files?
For the initial version, it can be released. Well, the Bicep is still in preview, right? So I'm okay. I will not just use it until it's in the final shape. I would love to have it. Basically, if this is only like an initial version and you will support it, then I'm okay, right? So with the local and the Pinaki and I forgot the name. The previous speaker has some good points to consider. So the extents or like imports, maybe exports, maybe we can like differently, a bit different shape.
Yeah, makes sense.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you all. Thanks for your comments. And if you want to send your comments, you can use the GitHub issue or the pull request, or you can use this chat to send your comments. And all comments are more than welcome. Thank you very much. And
Thanks,
back to you,
Engin.
Stefan.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for the feedback. It's really great to see the user feedback, sharing us your use cases and what you guys want. This community call is specifically for that. We want to know exactly what you guys want, what to prioritize in the things that we're doing. So we don't have anyone saying like, oh, you implemented this, but we wanted this instead. So we're happy to have you guys share your opinion. Oh, that being said, the variables, we don't have support for that currently. And I think our ask was when to prioritize it. And it seems like we should prioritize it soon. And that should we release it with or without support as of now. And it looks like it would be good to release, just not everyone will be using it if variables aren't supported, which is fine. But we will try to prioritize having that out by the next release. And I think that is what we gathered from this conversation. And if you have any other comments or any other design or specific use cases that you want us to keep in mind when designing any more features on this, please comment in the pull request or the issue that I linked. There's been a lot of comments so far, and Engin's been dutifully reading all of them and implementing that into his design. So we're listening. We want to make this as usable for you guys as possible. Okay, we can move on to the next topic then. Let's see. I think that was Freak.
Yep. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Okay, sounds good.
Let me know when you can see it.
I can see.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah. So Stephanie, Alex, thank you so much for having me on the community call this month. Happy to be here, and I was in the opportunity to present a session at Microsoft Build last month, which was obviously on Bicep. And I was asked to provide some insights on that experience for this community call here, and talk a little bit about what I presented there, and also some of the feedback that I gathered as part of that session. So of course, happy to do that. I'm sure that everyone is aware what the event is, right? It is the developer conference that's hosted each year, and this year they have actually had a little over 3,500 in-person attendees, which was great to see. I'm sharing a couple of photos here just to give you an impression on what the experience and the session was like. It was hosted in the Seattle Convention Center, so that was great. And I presented a session there entitled Optimized Azure Infrastructure as Code Deployments with VS Code. So obviously, since it was a developer-focused conference, I started to give it a little bit of developer taste in it, if you will, a little bit more focusing on the VS Code experience. And so I didn't really know what to expect in terms of attendees for a couple of reasons. One is that I was the only session that was actually dedicated to infrastructure as code, so that could have gone two ways, right? And the other thing that I found out actually just an hour before the session is that I was actually competing to Marko Sinovic, who I'm sure everyone knows, a very popular speaker at these kinds of events. So I was actually really happy to see 117 attendees in that session interested into the Bicep topic. So those were the numbers that were shared with me by the event team in terms of number of scanned badges. So that was really great. So I got a lot of great feedback on it, a lot of really interesting discussions afterwards as well. And so unfortunately, all of the lab sessions at Build were not recorded. So there isn't a recording available. That was just the way that they planned those lab sessions at that event. However, I did get a notification about 2 weeks ago from the event team that this Bicep topic was actually in the top 5 of most attended demo sessions throughout the entire conference. So that was really great to hear and to see. And as a result, Microsoft offered to actually record that top 5 afterwards. And that's what I did last Monday evening, actually presenting it again together with the DevRel Studio team to record the session, which will be edited and published on the YouTube channel of Microsoft Build. So that was really great to see.
Break,
So
you said this was I just one question. You said this was a lab, is that right? And how is that different from maybe a regular breakout session?
Yeah, so what they did is they had different concepts. So breakout tend to be a little bit longer into sort of a dedicated closed room, if you will. The lab sessions were at the expo or hub area of the event, where a lot of other vendors have small booths as well. And so those were not recorded. Most of the breakouts were. But this was more of an interactive style session where a lot of people had the opportunity just to walk in and attend. It's a
Got it.
demo style lab session, if you will. Yeah.
Got it.
So in terms of session flow, some of the things that I shared, I wanted to address that here as well. So it was about 90% live demo, which is also the intent of those demo sessions as well. And I wanted to take the audience through the entire landscape when it comes to infrastructure as code deployments and creation of that. So I started with the create phase, focusing on optimizing the coding experience with Bicep within VS Code or Visual Studio with the extension. So this was all live demo, showcasing literally how to get started with the first Bicep file, how to make use of that IntelliSense code completion, creating parameters and all of those things. Then transitioning to modules, so showing how the concept of modules work, how that works when you start to share that inside an Azure Container Registry, or how to leverage one of the latest modules based on the Azure Route modules as well. And still, one of my favorite features is actually inserting resources. So this, if you're not familiar, is just getting any resource ID from the Azure portal, copying that in and pasting that as a Bicep code right inside the Bicep file. So that's always fun to show, and got a lot of great response as well. And also transitioning. So for those people that attended that still have more of an ARM template background, some ways to learn the code, to reverse engineer and decompile code as well. And the visualizer, which keeps on being a great thing to show during these kinds of demos. Then transition more to the deploy phase. And obviously in the time that I was given, it was impossible to talk about all of the different ways to deploy Bicep templates, whether that's Azure DevOps or GitHub Actions or PowerShell or CLI. So I decided to focus on the VS Code integration with the deployment pane, which allows you to perform all kinds of deployment actions right from within the VS Code console. So I introduced a couple of errors on purpose inside the template to see some of the validation messages that you get there, as well as the what if integration. All the way to actually deploying a couple of resources from that deployment pane. And also, a thing that I like to see is the actual hyperlinks inside the deployment output, where you're able to see the output and click on one of those hyperlinks and get a direct link towards the resource that was actually involved in that deploy process. And then lastly, I figured it would be a good time to also talk about maintaining resources as logical groupings with the latest on deployment stacks. So did a couple of demos to create a deployment stack from scratch. Talked about the different deny, delete options, and showing what the experience is like if you try to delete one of the individual resources where deny, delete is configured. And also the different actions on managing or detaching resources from that stack, all the way to discussing the delete or destroy all functionality from within that deployment stack. So that was sort of the way that I wanted to present all of those topics and have that as a red line through the entire session. So before I share some of the feedback that I also gathered, mostly in discussions afterwards as well, I did also have the opportunity to present the same content last week, actually, at a community conference in Belgium, which is called the MC2MC conference. And I sort of did an extended version of the build session there. So that was about 60 minutes. So the same kind of flow with the create, the deploy, and the maintain, but also taking a couple of side steps and diving a little bit deeper into the technology also showcasing the Graph API integration, as well as things like user-defined types and user-defined functions and exporting those and those kind of capabilities. So it was a great conference to be at. About 130 attendees that usually attend that, and yeah, great opportunity to perform like an extended version of what I did at Build. And then lastly, I'll share some of the feedback that I gathered, and again, this is mostly on discussions afterwards. So there was a lot of interest to talk more about this topic after the sessions. And so one thing that I heard about deployment stacks, based on the feedback that I got, this was the section that people were most interested in. So a lot of people were waiting for this option to also have that destroy option available to, well, similar to what Terraform, for example, does. It was also interesting to see that some of them were also a little bit scared of the impact of that destroy functionality. So that was interesting to hear and see. And of course, I'm sure that has been shared before. A lot of people were also waiting for the what if support for deployment stacks. It was interesting to see that almost no one in the audience knew about user-defined functions yet. So I did a couple of demos on that, showcasing some of the functionality in there. And that got a lot of people excited that were struggling with well, function-based actions that not really match with the template itself, with the declarative template. So that was got some really great feedback on that, both on the types as well as the user-defined functions. There, I would say, obviously, was a lot of excitement for the Graph API 1.0 version. So I did a couple of demos on that, creating app registrations, creating groups, adding members, adding owners, things like that. A lot of people are, for obvious reasons, waiting for that integration to go beyond Azure resources and also include Graph APIs and possibly other APIs in the future as well. But Graph API was definitely the number one integration that people wanted to see, despite the current limitations, which of course also addressed and talked about. So the limitation in terms of number of members and owners that you can have in the template, as well as those properties being non-destructive. So not the ability of having the option to delete members, but only adding them. And I think we're going to also talk about that in this community call and talk a lot about some options that are going to be proposed to work around that. In regards to ACRs, it was interesting to see. I think for me, it was the first time that people actually responded that they're actively using ACRs a lot. So that was great to see. So they're using that to centrally host modules, but also share them with partners, with colleagues, with other departments. So that was great to see. There was the feedback on the limitation of the maximum size there as well. And lastly, well, the visualizer that just remains a super great demo to do. So I showed a fairly large Bicep template with lots of resources, modules, and all kinds of connections between that. It's great. It remains a great demo to actually show live and drag these objects around and make them into a documentation, for example. The number one feedback, and I'm sure that we've talked about that before as well, is the lack of support to actually export it. So that's the number one feedback that I always get when I'm talking about that, is the ability to export it to PDF, Visio, HTML, or possibly even PNG format. That would be great to see. And lastly, and I'll hand it back, is that I'm really seeing a trend where lots more people are actually already using Bicep. And so if you have been following me, you probably know that I've been presenting on Bicep since the early days, since the 0.1 version really. And so in the beginning, and that was really true for at least the last year, is that Yes, people knew about Bicep. They somewhat worked with it, but they were still working with other technologies. These two events, it was really really noticeable that there was a trend in a lot of people already using Bicep for production use, but also advanced scenarios like the ACRs and GitHub Actions and Azure DevOps. So that's definitely a great trend to see. So I wanted to also provide that as feedback. That is well all I had. So happy to take any questions on that now, or if you want to discuss it later, that's fine as well. But thank you for inviting me to share this.
Frank, I have
Yeah, thanks,
one
Rick.
question. Oh, sorry, Stephanie. I was just going to ask one question. What max size limit are you referring to on the ACR side?
There was someone that says that there was a maximum size that they ran into in terms of the size of the template of the module that's inside the ACR. I still have to get back to him on the exact details. He was going to share me an example of where that failed. Not sure if that's something that you're aware of or is that expected.
I haven't heard about that one. I don't know if anybody else on the call has run into any template size limits in ACR beyond regular template size limits of 4 megabytes for deployments. Maybe that was
Right.
it.
Okay. Could be related to that. I'm not sure, but if I find out, I'll definitely let you know.
Thanks, Rick. Really appreciate this. Hopefully a lot of people also enjoyed the presentation. All right, we could move on
Thank
to,
you.
oh, sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you as well. And Frank is our resident Bicep presenter and book writer and all of these sorts of things. We actually tried to get into build also, but we weren't able to. But Freak was, thank goodness. And thank you for sharing all the stuff that the whole team is working on, both our team and the community and all these different projects. So really thanks a lot, Frank.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, I second what Alex said. Thank you for representing the entire Bicep team at the Build conference. Really appreciate that. Glad to have you here. I'm gonna retake over sharing, if that's okay. And we can move on to our next few topics. All right, Dan?
Hello, everyone. It's great to be back in this forum again so soon. And I just wanted to echo what Alex and Stephanie said. Freak, thank you very much for talking about Bicep and also Microsoft Graph. So very happy you were doing that. Freak, it's a great segue into talking about Microsoft Graph relationships in Bicep. We identified some issues for how we're modeling relationships in Bicep, and this is in particular evident in groups in terms of the owners and members. And so just to, I don't know if I can take control here.
I think you can, yeah.
Yeah, I can, look at that. Just to recap on this is a small example of declaring a Microsoft Graph security group with a variety of required properties, but it also defines owners and members. And owners and members today is basically a string array. So you just add the set of owners and members that you want in this group, and it will go ahead and provision that. The challenge that we have with this is, first of all, it uses append-only semantics, as Freak was pointing out. So you don't have a way to remove owners and members, and it's just going to keep adding things. So you might remove a member from the list and add others and expect that one that you removed from the list to be removed in the service, but that doesn't happen, and now you're in this place where your template doesn't actually represent what you have in the infrastructure, which kind of defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do here with config as code or infrastructure as code. The other problem that we have is, while in the template you can specify as many owners and members as you like, if you actually end up specifying more than 20 members or owners, the deployment will fail. And this is because we have a limit in the Microsoft Graph API that sits underneath this, in terms of it can only add or append up to 20 members and owners, and we have kind of a one-to-one correspondence in our Graph Bicep extension. This is what we're going to cover, and oh, by the way, this is tracked in this particular GitHub issue. What we're going to cover here now are a couple of options that we've thought up that we hope can address the first issue. The second issue, you can assume, is going to get addressed either way, whichever option we take. So we'll allow you to specify, in essence, an unlimited number of members and owners, depending on your scenario that you want to use this in. But it's the append-only semantics that we're going to look at here. So we have two options that we're looking at, and we really like your help in either picking an option that you prefer, or suggesting another option and giving us feedback on why you want one option over another. So our two options are modeling relationships as resources, and then relying on deployment stacks to decide whether to remove those relationship resources, or extending what we have today and making the relationship properties more like an object rather than a string array. So within there, specifying how the semantic works. So you can see in the first example with relationships as resources, we have three different relationships that we're showing in there and each one models adding a new member to the group, so that could be handled by deployment stacks, because it could know about those particular resources and track those resources. The second option here, we basically allow you at the top level, as part of the provider or will be extension declaration, to say, hey, I want to use replace semantics for relationships, and then there's an override on the individual relationship where you can say, actually, I want to override that global setting for this member. In this case, I want to use append versus replace, and then you still have a string array for the set of members that you want to add in that relationship. So those are the two options that we're presenting here, and I've got another slide that kind of goes through the pros and cons of those two options. So for the first option, I mean, it uses deployment stacks to control that append versus replace behavior, so it's very consistent with the way that the rest of Bicep works. The problem is that even though that is true, the infrastructure won't necessarily still really fully reflect the template file, even when using stacks. And this is because we don't have the same deny capabilities that deployment stacks have in Microsoft Graph. So we don't have the same underlying RBAC that Azure does to do that deny policy. So we can't extend that to say, look, here are our protected resources. No one else other than deployment stacks is allowed to mess with these resources. So that there is the potential still of having some drift if someone else has gone and made some changes. The because of the way that, so for non-human readable names, because of the way that Microsoft Graph models relationships, which is a different concept for how Azure does this. Azure doesn't have the same concept. We don't actually have anywhere that we can hold a human readable name for a relationship resource. So we're going to have to use the an ID, which in general would be an ugly GUID or reference a GUID for those relationship resources. And then finally, I think there's a limit on the maximum number of resources you can define in a template. I think I read that somewhere. If you want to go, over that limit, if you want to manage a large group through this mechanism, then that may be a problem. On the flip side, for config settings to opt in and to replace semantics, in this case, the infrastructure will fully reflect the template file with replace. So you can, if there is some drift, someone does go and make an update in the infrastructure through a different mechanism, you can rerun the deployment and it will go and push the desired state that you have in the template file. You also get some fine-grained control of behavior over relationships. So maybe there are certain objects or resources that you want to manage with replace semantics, and maybe there are others that, for whatever reason, you may have in your business to use an append semantic. And then obviously the con is this is separate from deployment stacks. So we're struggling with which option to go with here, and so we're definitely looking for your feedback on this. So we've actually created a survey for this. I'm going to paste the link in here. Please go ahead and answer the survey now. It will it should take you a minute or two to fill out, where you just pick which option you want, or maybe you want to suggest a third option, and give us the reasons why you'd like to do that. And I will monitor the answers and publish some early results in the chat before we close out this meeting. But the survey will remain open till the end of July, so you can go and do this another time. And folks on who are seeing this on YouTube, you'll still be able to vote until the end of July. So please, we'd love your help. We love the feedback that you give, and please go ahead and fill out this survey. Otherwise, happy to field any questions now. Oh, sure.
And there's an ask to show the yeah.
Why is that not going back? Hold on. There we go. That the slide you want?
Okay. I'm just going to put a screenshot in the chat so people have.
Oh yeah, perfect. And then we can move on, and I'll post some results before we finish up the meeting. But thank you everyone who is responding.
Thanks. Are we good with this topic? Looks like we've got a lot of feedback in the chat. A lot of people are saying too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm seeing that in the survey as well at the moment. But
Sounds good. All right. Hopefully we could move on to the next topic. Is that okay, Dan?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for sharing this. Lots of action in the comments, so I like that. Okay. Our last topic, AVM team. I'm not sure if Mate, you're taking this
I'm
on.
here. Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. My name is Mate Barbash. I'm one of the PMs behind Azure Verified Modules, and we have a couple of topics to cover today. So the first one is about the new module releases. This month, we released 4 resource modules and 1 parent module. As always, our module index is available through this short link, aka.ms/avm/module index. This time, I also included a screenshot about the Bicep module index page, specifically to call out that we added this beautiful green section below the table that summarizes the available modules, with the intent of highlighting modules that actually need some help, some contribution. The first 2 categories, I would say, are mainly for FTEs to apply for, though if you are interested in picking up or being part of the contributor community and helping an FTE module owner with a new or an already orphaned module, you can still leave a comment in the first 2 categories. But the third category is actually new, and I like to highlight that as these are things where we do have a module owner, but that module owner, for any reason, mainly due to capacity reasons, would feel that they could make use of some extra help. So in that case, we listed all the GitHub issues that are related to those modules that are in this category. So I'd recommend you exploring these saved GitHub queries. And if you feel like you could help with any of these modules, just feel free to drop a comment and we will pick it up there. And very specifically, just going back to the releases of this month, we actually released one very much awaited pattern module, and I think we have Jack on the call who could share some more details about it.
Yeah, thanks, Mate. So we have moved the landing zone vending module from its original home in the Bicep LZ vending repo, which was one of the first modules that we published into the original public Bicep registry. That has now been transformed, migrated, whatever word you want to use, into an AVM pattern module. So if you were using the previous version of the module, there are a couple of small breaking changes into parameter names that you just need to update your code. But when you change the module source, version 1.5.2, which what would have been the next version in the Bicep LZ vending version, it has become 0.1.0 in AVM. So it's an evolution. It's all published in the READMEs and stuff like that. So you should be able to find what you need. But it's great to see this finally moved. Huge shout out to Saif for doing a lot of the heavy lifting here in the work. But this also now means it should be easier for many more folks to contribute to the sub-vending module and expand it with features like PIM, and budgets and a lot of other things that have been on the waiting list. So this was the work we wanted to do before we start investing in the rest of the features. So if you did have any features for the sub-vending module in the original repo, that's fine. We'll pick them up and transfer them. But do create some new ones if you want to as well, for new features, and feel free to contribute and get involved as well.
Thank you, Jack. That's actually a very good segue to our second point, which is that we used to have the Carmel library, the Common Azure Resource Module library. And as you probably know, AVM is an evolutionary next step to Carmel. And our modules that today are AVM modules existed for a while. Most of them existed for a while as Carmel modules. And there were many open issues that were opened in the Carmel repository for these modules. And this month, we finally got back to all of these issues that were opened in Carmel. We reviewed them all and we separated them, and like all of those that are still significant for now the AVM version of these modules are now carried over to AVM and are assigned to the current module owner where one is available. So that work is now pretty much done. Our point 3 is just a minor update that we now have a new issue template in the AVM repository specific to Bicep modules. So in case somebody identifies a bug or wants to request a new feature that is related to the CI environment that we leverage for the Bicep modules, there's a dedicated issue template now that allows us to, better and faster route these issues to our core team. And the last point that I have here is just to mention that we are in the middle of kind of reinventing how we want to deal with our scheduled pipelines. So just to clarify, every single module version, before we publish them, obviously we expose them to some rigorous testing. So that's all intact, still in place. But then we like to periodically retest every single module, and we are in the middle of changing how we do the scheduling. So right now, I would say we disassembled a previous process, and we are in the middle of reassembling it. So in case you are poking around and you find like, hey, why are those disabled, or where is the schedule gone? We just want to let you know that this is coming back, but in a different form. So that's it from us for today, and back to you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Mate. We are at time, but I want to quickly go over these requested updates that were in the community call issue. Hopefully it won't take too long. The first one, what if State of the Union? Alex?
Yeah, so the big thing that is happening right now is we're working on fixing the short circuiting issue, where what if just fails to do the comparison for specific resources. It just thinks that it is not in the list. So that's the most kind of urgent issue to fix. And I think Johnny, keep me honest, will have a meaningful update to that in the next 1 to 2 months. Is that a fair ETA?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
After that, we have this noise issue to deal with. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but we want to look into what Stacks might be able to do to help resolve the noise issue. So Stacks, in essence, can keep track of what was the most recently deployed template or Bicep file. And theoretically, you should be able to use that to do a better comparison than only what we're getting back from Azure, which has noise because of inconsistencies in the information that we're getting back from Azure, basically extra properties that we're unable to identify as like default properties or read-only properties or things of that nature. So maybe it'll fix the noise, maybe it won't. I hope it will, but we have to do some testing and experimentation. But that's after we fix the short circuiting issue, which is the much more pressing issue. We're going to start focusing on the noise problem a little more intently to see what we can do there, but absolutely no promises. The other thing that is happening is what if support for Stacks. So once we fix the short circuiting issue, we'll be able to, with genuine confidence, be able to say, here's what the stack will delete if you enable the delete setting, because we'll be able to kind of fully resolve the list of resources that we're going to affect, and therefore any resources that we're going to delete. So it's really those three things that are going on. One is fixing the short circuiting, 2, enabling what if in Stacks to give you more confidence with deletes, and then 3, with a big giant red asterisk, is maybe we can use Stacks to fix the noise problem. Anyone have any burning questions about that one? Okay.
Cool. Thanks, Alex. Bicep deploy feature. Sydney?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for all of your feedback from the last community call on this. Currently, we are not prioritizing this right now, but if this is something you're really wanting, be sure to vocalize that in the GitHub issues, and maybe we can take another look at it sometime in the near future.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sydney. Experimental features. I talked a little bit about it previously, but we can go over experimental features each month, which was what a user was asking for, just to see what updates are going on, where things are. A lot of them have been pushed to the side because they were either intern projects or some projects that got deprioritized because it didn't get so much traction. And specifically, the user asked for updates on resource type params and outputs and resource derived types. So Johnny, do you have an update for this?
Yeah, so for resource type params and outputs, this has been in experimental status for a long time. And the reason for that was essentially when you output a resource, you can't really refer to its properties in the parent template just because of limitations of the ARM engine where we can't have nested references within reference statements. So I'm going to put a link in the chat for some details if you're curious. But one thing that has come up recently is a lot of the work that we're doing for what if should help this feature where like a solution that we had considered was seen as too expensive, but that is perhaps not the case if we've already written the tool for a different purpose. So this is something we may be revisiting shortly. No update on resource derived types. We're still trying to figure out how resource type parameters and resource derived types work together because they're very similar at the moment.
Thanks, Johnny. All right, and there was one in chat. I tried to update the PowerPoint, but I guess since it was still being shared, it didn't quite update. But someone was asking about path completion for module names in private registries. I asked the PM and engineers who are working on that right now. The engineer who will be working on this has been kind of slammed with a lot of other priority features and security issues to fix. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, we can get this out in the next couple of months, but it's kind of challenging being able to move things around and reprioritize. So hopefully we can try to get this out, but sorry, we don't have more of an update on this specific issue for you. All right, that being said, we don't have time for Q&A today. I'm so sorry. I think a good amount of us have to go to other meetings. I think a lot of people have already dropped. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Really appreciate everyone's feedback, all of the action in the comment section. I'm going to upload this to YouTube later this week or next week, early next week. But yeah, thanks everyone. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And if you're in the United States, enjoy 4th of July week. Thanks, everyone.